Okay, good evening, everyone. Um, my name is Frank Coda. I am the architect for the proposed Starbucks to be located at Stevens Creek and Harold. This is a follow-up uh, outreach meeting from our earlier, actually it was late last year, where we presented the project. Since then, we did two things. We had a small revision to the site plan, which I'll go over shortly. And then we also did a traffic study. I do have our traffic engineer, Renee, on here as we get into the question and answer. If something needs to be dealt with more deeply. This is being recorded. Also on the call with me is Steve Lee. He's a senior planner with the city. Um, Steve, if I'm not mistaken, there is a way for, once we get to the question and answer, for people to raise their hand and I can answer, correct?
Yes, right. They can raise their hand and then you can allow them to talk one at a time.
Okay, that's what I thought. I just wanted to reiterate to everyone how I think this works. Um, that said, I'm going to start actually just for those who may not have been on our last call. I did just want to give an overview of the location. Um, this is an aerial map, obviously, and we're the building down here at 3575 Stevens Creek Boulevard, right on the hard corner of Harold and Stevens Creek. We have San Tomas Expressway coming through here. We also have Harold going straight back through Forest at this place, at this location, and then obviously up to Prune Ridge up here. So that is our location. The first step, again, we had this is our proposed site plan. The change that from the last plan, I'm gonna go to that last plan before. We did have double drive-through entry out to Harold. In talking and going back with the city in terms of city traffic engineer, we did agree that we would do this design to minimize the amount of driveway width across Harold to help with some of the pedestrian crossings. So we will have a single drive into our site for the drive-through lane, and then that'll split to two order points. Those are right here, a menu board and an order point for each lane. After that, it'll merge back and then come out to the drive-through window. People would then exit and exit out onto Harold. The other item that has happened in conversations with the city traffic engineering department would be this Stevens Creek entry will remain a right in. We had some discussion of trying to get a right out, but due to safety concerns with the intersection of Harold right here at Stevens Creek, as you can imagine, if somebody was coming out and somebody was trying to make a left, you could end up with some problems there, or people trying to take a left out as well. So this will be an ingress only, right in only from Stevens Creek. And then there'll be a full access for the parking lot and the drive-through exit onto Harold. That is our site plan. Again, the change was basically from our last meeting for us reducing this down to a single drive-through entry lane. Building is sited up on Stevens Creek Avenue. We've got some tables and chairs along the right of way, and to try and activate the pedestrian movements and again, we've got everything on site. We've got 15 cars. We from this design, the previous design to our current proposed, that we lost one car. This has 15 cars in our queue. Oops, sorry. This has 16 cars in our queue. Our queuing study comes down to 13, possibly 14 as a maximum, so we don't foresee any problems with this design in terms of having people onto the street. I do know that one of our conditions of approval would be to have a traffic management plan. Should we spill out, we will come up with that plan, but it basically would be people out, our partner coning this off and saying this is no longer in service to keep the traffic from not going, blocking up the Harold Road. They may send them into our parking lot for pickup or other things. Again, that's part of our traffic management plan that would be developed at a later time. With that, again, most of our efforts have been doing a traffic study. We did conduct counts. It was not the week of Thanksgiving. I think there was some folks thinking we might have done it the week of Thanksgiving, but it was not. It was actually the week after. I believe it was a Tuesday. Renee can correct me if I'm wrong when we get there. So our this is really our traffic findings summary. Um, on the screen now, you can see the study intersections. Obviously, San Tomas and Stevens Creek and Harold, Stevens Creek and Cypress, Stevens and Tyler. We did study Harold and Forest Avenue, as well as Harold and Prune Ridge. A lot of this came about from our neighborhood meeting last time. Just a brief, maybe I can get rid of my face. Um, just a brief summary on the traffic study. So the project generates 583 daily trips, but only 47 more trips than the previous retail use, the previous use that was on the site. And I did want to just note that if you haven't dealt with traffic and the way traffic engineers look at things, one trip, oh, sorry, one car is equal to two trips. That's how this is, traffic engineers look at things. Uh, so basically one car is two trips, being one trip into the facility, in this case Starbucks, and one trip out of the facility. So 47 trips more than the previous on a daily basis is approximately, what, 24? I guess it's 23.5. Not that you have a 0.5 car, but that's the math of the traffic engineering study. I did want to point out that the city requires detailed traffic studies only if the trip increase is over 100 new daily trips. We weren't at 47. This was all dealt with back in October. We did the required CEQA vehicle miles traveled. It's the new way that CEQA looks at traffic impacts. And so there at that time, we weren't required to do a study. Let me put it that way. We then had our community meeting in November, and after hearing the items that we heard, we thought it was important to actually conduct a full traffic study. And so we began to coordinate with the city to conduct one. The study has been completed. Steve, I did upload it to our site. We upload all stuff to you, so it is there, and it's currently being reviewed by the city. Some of our key findings. As I mentioned earlier, the city would only allow the right-in entrance off of Stevens Creek for the safety reasons I had discussed. Due to the closeness of Harold. And so all the exiting from our parking lot as well as the drive-through exit must remain on Harold. The other item that the study revealed was that half of the trips generated, somewhere in the 50 to 55%, are what they call trips of opportunity, or as traffic engineers call it, pass-by trips. Basically, the concept is these are vehicles that are already on the road. They're not making a special trip to Starbucks. So some examples are commuters and other people out for their daily trips for grocery shopping, or whatever they're doing, going to the gym, whatever they're out. They're not. It's not a destination. They're already on the road, And so that amount is called pass-by trips, and the study said that we have about 50 to 55% of our customers coming are already people on the road and just kind of stopping off to get their coffee. There is some delay turning left from Harold to Stevens Creek. That's during the peak hours. It's not very much. The most is like a 15-minute time frame. We've put it into maximum of like 4 cars waiting to turn onto Stephen Creek, even left or right, but the main delay was in the left from Harold to Stevens Creek. I'm going to give you some shots from our traffic study next to just review that, what that means. There was no major effect on queuing at San Tomas Expressway or at Cypress Avenue. We talked about the vehicle miles traveled, how CEQA looks at things. There was no impact there. It's basically a local serving use in a small project. We also did a 5-year fatal crash study. There was only one severe injury at San Tomas and Stevens Creek during that 5-year period. And again, I'm going to show you some of that data. This is probably tough to see, so I'm going to switch over to a better PDF. So this is from our traffic study. These are the results of the existing conditions. Obviously, we took all the traffic counts. These are the existing conditions without the project. These 2 columns are this is the existing plus the project conditions. You can go through, but Stevens Creek and San Tomas, for example, it's at a level of service F today without the project. There was a 4-second change in delay, didn't really change the level of service. Kind of, you can go through here. Here's Stevens Creek and Harold. This is the one intersection there was some slight impact to. On the AM, you're at an F. We went from 62, we were adding 78 seconds. That's this peak hour delay I'm talking about that has a few more cars maybe. And then we'll get to kind of the mitigation um, that we're proposing in conjunction with the city. And you'll see what that is in short order. Some of the other intersections, Stevens Creek and Cypress, no real change there. Stevens Creek and Tyler, a second or so, no change there. Harold and Forest, again, it operates as on a A at the AM and a B at the PM peak. We don't really have any impact on that at all. We did study Prune Ridge and Harold. Again, that was a big topic of last neighborhood meeting. You can see in the PM peak, it's already down at an E. And then we go to our impact is negligible, a 0.2 and a 0.4 second increase. Obviously, there's no conditions for the Stevens Creek and our project driveway right in, and but then this is the Harold and our project. So that's the level of service, what we found after doing our study. We also talked about crashes. We did this 5-year study or 5-year historical look. Again, we have all the intersections listed here. Kind of what you see here, there's no fatalities. There was one severe injury in the past 5 years at Stevens Creek and San Tomas. We had some other items that came up about, but this is the summary of our crash summary for the past 5 years, and I just wanted to share that information with you. Back to that's the crash study. So I guess the big question, we had talked extensively last neighborhood meeting regarding neighborhood traffic, and what I heard was there was cut throughs and there was speeding. There was a discussion of a 4-way stop at Forest Avenue. So I'm going to take you through. We have the results of that. The study indicated to expect a minimal traffic diversion through the neighborhood from the project. In other words, our findings are that we don't expect many people to be going to make a diversion, say, oh, I'll go through the neighborhood. They're generally going to continue on their way back to that pass by traffic. Like, this is on my way, I'll stop and continue on. I'm going to show you the warrants that were looked at for a four-way stop at Forest. The punchline there was it's still not warranted. We also discussed this with the city traffic engineer, and they were in agreement with our findings, but I will show you that so you can see. On the cut through traffic on Harold, it was basically inconclusive, at least what we saw. There wasn't any spikes in the traffic volumes during rush hours at both Forest or Prune Ridge, and there was minimal volumes turning at Prune Ridge. Now, as we saw earlier, Prune Ridge in the evening is at a level service E already, so it probably does feel like there's people trying to get in there, but again, we didn't see it as cut through. We saw it as people coming back from work to their homes. Could be the explanation for that heavy traffic there at Prune Ridge. The other item that was discussed was the preschool drop-off and pickup operations. We did go out there. The curb in front and nearby is designated as 2-hour parking. What we understand is parents do park on the street for pickup and drop off in the 2-hour area. We didn't have any we didn't have any reports of any negative operational impacts from this pickup and drop off operation. At least that's what we found to be when we were out there doing our thing. We did study the speeding, and there definitely was some speeding going on. Traveling, this is average. I'll get to the charts, 32 miles per hour in the 25 zone. And so part of that I think it's kind of connected speeding and perhaps reducing the cut through if there is cut through going on. Again, it was a little bit inconclusive, so perhaps there is. We were working with the city on installing some speed reducing measures. Current thinking is some speed humps, maybe 2, and or a radar speed feedback sign. We would help fund those improvements directly to the city. The city would like to take the lead on the design process. I think they're already in kind of looking at that area already. There is actually, Steve, if you would refresh my memory, the actual name, but I believe there is a traffic calming group within the city.
Yeah, there's a traffic calming team.
Yes. So they were aware of all that. They were actually aware of the area before, but I think we were able to talk to them in specifically how our project would impact that area and what we could do to help the cut through and the speeding. Let's see. So now I'm gonna, again, so you can see what these are, go back to 4-way stop warrant. So there's several criteria. There's a lot of like detail, but these are all the criteria that you need to satisfy, basically what they call a warrant analysis. That was all done. We just needed, honestly, like I believe it was one of these to say yes, that we satisfied it, and we would be able to get one installed. So this warrant analysis, unfortunately, I know a lot of people were wanting to have the 4-way stop, but based on pure traffic analysis, it's not warranted at this time. And even with our project, it was fairly minor new traffic if going through that area, so it wouldn't trigger it either. Again, talking to the transportation manager for the city, they were in agreement with our findings, but I did want to bring this forward because there was a lot of talk about why couldn't that be a 4-way stop to help people slow down and maybe help cut through. Our speeding, this is the results of our speed data collected along Harold. We've got some good speeding going on. Yep, almost 40 miles an hour. Like average was 32. So you can see with a posted of 25 miles an hour, this is kind of where we ended up in saying we'd like to help with the speeding concerns, and that also would probably help if we could slow it down with any people thinking about trying to cut through the neighborhood. Back to that was Harold Calming. So that was the end of my presentation. I think what I'd like to do at this point, I'm gonna open this up for comments like we did last time. As I believe what can happen is everyone can raise their hand, and I'm going to select people to talk, and then we'll go through and have a discussion. I'm gonna actually, I'm trying to think of, I'm gonna leave it on the aerial in case we need to zoom around. And my first person, Robert Mazzetti. Did I say that correctly? Robert, you should be able to talk. Should be able to hear you. No, Robert. Doing something wrong. Okay, I'm gonna try someone else. Make sure it's not me. Is it a Rex? Can you, says ask to unmute. Steve, am I doing this right?
Okay. All right. Can you hear me?
There we go, Rex. Is that you?
All right. Hey, good evening. Hey, thank you for coming back to answer a question. I just have, these slides that you just presented, we can actually download them, right?
I gave Steve, I mean, I did
Yeah,
send you the
it will be
presentation.
uploaded
Hello, can you hear me now?
after the meeting.
Okay, yeah, because I think it would be a lot better if we actually can actually see ahead of the meeting.
I'm sorry.
Hello, can you hear me now?
I did. Hold on. I was with Rex and I accidentally, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, go ahead, Rex.
Okay, I don't know how I actually muted.
Hello, I keep getting muted.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. So let me just repeat. So I would like to actually. I was hoping that we can see these slides, before the meeting, so we can actually look at them because there's a lot of details in there. So, but I heard that it will be uploaded after this meeting, right?
Correct, Steve. I mean, correct, Rex. Steve, is that correct?
Okay.
Yes, everything is going to be uploaded. The presentations and the recording of this meeting.
Okay. So just for reference, I think in the future, any meeting like this, we probably should actually have those uploaded before the meeting, because there will be a lot more, like effective, efficient for the meeting to be conducted. By the way, so I'm just look at all those slides that we have so far. I have one question first. So the traffic monitoring was conducted on the November 28th. Is that correct?
Yes, I believe that is correct.
It was just one day, right?
Renee, was it just the one day?
Yes, it was just the one day. That's standard practice for traffic counts. You do one day, you observe for 2 hours in the morning and 2 hours in the afternoon, and you pick the highest hourly volume of those peak periods.
What date of the week is that?
Let me double check that really quick. I will
was
have that for you in a moment.
November 28th was a Tuesday.
Tuesday the
Tuesday.
28th. Okay. Okay, yes.
Okay, so one day sampling, is that sufficient statistically?
It is typical. It is standard practice, and I believe it is statistically pretty steady state traffic. Traffic varies somewhat from day to day, But
Mm, okay,
the standard practice in the industry is to do a single day observation usually.
okay. All right. I'm not a statistician, so I just feel like 1 day sampling, it's just like for this traffic study, I don't think that's enough.
Well, that,
It's a
I don't know what-
snapshot. It's a snapshot.
Yeah, it's a snapshot, out of 365 years. That's that day a year, right?
We only do collection usually on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. When schools are in session, not on a holiday, when weather is clear, basically trying to get the most representative sample that we can on a single day collection.
I know, because I saw that stood up that the day that we install it. And it was in the morning, and it was a very quiet day. I mean, compared to other, again, I can't say it's just 1 day out of 365 days of a year. So anyway, I think there's something that we should actually keep in mind, for everybody to keep in mind for this data that we presented over here.
okay,
And then for the there's a slide showing the past like incidents
yeah.
among all the intersections. Can you show that one more time?
The crash,
Yeah, I'm particularly interested in the corner I live right at. It's the Harold and Forest.
Harold and Forest, that's this one right here. Again, this,
So this was actually January 2018 to December 2022. So January 2018 is already after the city put in the two-way stops, or before?
I
I
don't
think
know
I'll
when,
I'll defer to Steve on that one. I don't actually know offhand.
Okay, all I remember is we had a really serious accident, and then the car just ran into my iron gate, all right, and it destroyed my gate. So I can't remember which year was that. That's what I'm trying to actually look back there, because this data shows here there was nothing right happened at this intersection.
So one caveat with this crash data is that this is taken from a database that only counts anything with an injury level. So if there was a complaint of pain or worse, property damage only collisions are not included in this database. So if no one was hurt in the collision, it wouldn't be shown, because
Okay.
normally in order to rectify severe hazards, what you're looking for is fatal or injury accidents.
Okay, so if there's no injury involved, then
if there's no injury involved, it wouldn't necessarily show up in the table.
Okay, so in another word, if there's no injury involved, the vehicle accident doesn't matter.
it's just not reported to the, I think you're taking it from Cal
We're
Berkeley.
taking it from the TIMS system, Transportation Injury Mapping System, which takes raw data from the CHP, and it looks at injury and fatal collisions.
So only injury incident matters in our consideration of the safety in our neighborhood. Is that correct?
I wouldn't say they're the only ones that matter, but they're the only ones that we're looking at specifically.
Okay, all right. All right, oh, that's the two questions I have so far. Thank you.
Sure. Did I lose Robert?
You can find Robert at the bottom and give him permission to talk. Just after you give permission to talk, just ask him to unmute himself.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm looking for him though. Oh, there he is. Just because he was.
Unmute. Okay, can you hear me now?
I can. Sorry about that, Robert.
That's all right. Yeah, I
Rob.
missed the entire all of the questions that Rex had asked. So I don't know if I'm repeating something, but I'm curious about how it is what's the mechanism of your study? I mean, how did you determine that there isn't going to be a substantial increase in traffic coming down Harold?
Renee?
So we look at traffic volumes as they exist right now, and we look at the most likely, the places with the heaviest traffic volumes and the places that, the roads that take people to where they want to be. So usually the arterials. So say Stevens Creek Boulevard, Santa Moss Expressway, Prune Ridge, those are the major streets. And sometimes we use travel demand models. Usually we look at the traffic volumes and we make estimates of, say 30% is going to go here, 20% is going to go there, 15% is going to go here, 5% is going to go here. And Frank, I think you may have the trip distribution figure up in the memo. If you could share that, that would be very helpful.
I don't have the trip, but I can get it from the study. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Right. My point is, though, you haven't done any surveys, you haven't spoken to anybody, you haven't determined what the local nature is going to be of people coming, right? You're just doing this from traffic studies, just numbers, isn't that right?
I mean, it all comes down to numbers ultimately.
Well, sure, and people don't come down Harold much as they would if a Starbucks was there, right? There's no purpose. So naturally, a Starbucks is going to be
Here we go.
a destination point, and more people are going to come down Harold. Isn't that right?
We expect that there will be more traffic on Harold, but not a lot more traffic. Most of the traffic that we expect from Harold is either people who are coming from Forest within the neighborhood or coming from Prune Ridge, say to the northeast. So there's some.
If you're coming down Prune Ridge and you want to go to that Starbucks, the only other way would be to go down Santa Moss, wait and make a left turn onto Stevens Creek, and then wait to make a left turn onto Harold and then go into your Starbucks. And people, isn't it going to be easier for people coming down Prune Ridge to not do that, just to come down Harold? You're going to have an increase in traffic down Harold, no matter which way you look at it. And it's going to be significant.
So it's going to be an increase in traffic, but we do not expect it to be significant. That's actually one of the reasons why we are recommending the traffic calming, is to disincentivize people from making that cut through unless they're already, say, on Forest. We want to make it less desirable for people to go from Prune Ridge down Harold to the Starbucks. Some people will. We're estimating that roughly 10% will. But we're estimating, 40% is.
Your estimates aren't based on anything.
They're based on traffic volumes. There's actually quite a lot more traffic on Stevens Creek and on Santa Moss than there is on Harold.
No
and
doubt. So the concerns that the neighborhood had that we listened to last time is we would rather not have a drive-through, and certainly not a drive-through where people enter and exit onto Harold. And I appreciate your efforts, but you haven't even looked at that, have you?
Having the exit onto Stevens Creek was a non-starter for safety reasons, so it had to remain on Harold. We did look at that.
So the safety concerns apply to Stevens Creek, but not on Harold. And I assume you're going to say that is because of traffic volume. Traffic volume
and traffic speed.
Have you looked at, and I think we requested this last time, a left turn only out of Starbucks onto Harold?
Left turn only?
Yeah.
To make it impossible for people to turn right out of?
Yeah.
No, we did not look at that option.
Can you look at that? Do you think that's a possibility for you? Is there any reason not to have that?
I don't know that it would be possible to prevent that geometrically without a great deal of intervention that could affect traffic. Making sure people can only turn left out of a driveway is more complicated than making sure people can only turn right out of a driveway. And so that would take, I don't know if that's possible to make it, to force people to go only left there in a two-way driveway.
A couple of barriers and a sign that says no right turn, right? Wouldn't that help?
People tend to go around things like that.
People disobey the law in order to travel to and leave Starbucks, right?
Well, I don't think a left turn only was something that I'm just going to say it works for the project as well. I think it's important to have people to be able to go right. I don't.
What's that
don't-
mean when you say it doesn't work for the project? What's that mean?
Well, people need to be able to go back to their house. What about people that live in the neighborhood?
I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so have you looked at just not having a drive-through? Is that a possibility?
That's not a possibility,
Why isn't it a possibility?
because that was the purpose of this whole project, is to
Well-
provide a convenience for our customers that do want to drive through in the area.
Right, but that's not really a reason. That's just what you want. I mean, have you looked at the numbers of maybe what your volume of business would be like without a drive-through? You think it's gonna be substantially less? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it's a good amount of the business. That's correct.
So where did you get the figure that there were 583, was it, trips in and out of the structure that exists there now when it was open? Where'd you get that figure?
Renee?
Just a moment. Let's see, that's on page 5 of the memo, if you have that up. Otherwise, I can share my screen.
I don't have a way to pull that up.
Oh, Frank, if you have that on
What are you I'm sorry, what are you looking for?
page 5 of the memo.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, guys. 5, this
There we
one?
go. Yeah. So trip generation is based on lots and lots of studies that have been done of similar sites. So for a coffee shop like this that has a drive-through window, there's a data source called the Institute of Transportation Engineers, ITE's Trip Generation Manual. They're on the 11th edition currently, and they have hundreds of land uses, from warehouses to residential types to coffee shops. And so based on the site characteristics, usually the square footage of the use, you can estimate the number of trips generated by similar uses. There are also what are called pass-by reductions, which is where we get the figure of 50 to 55% of people already being on the road, ducking in for their coffee, going back out. That data source is actually based on fast food.
Yeah, I'm
Fast
sorry.
food
I was sorry to interrupt, but I was talking about the 583 trips that you claim went in and out of the businesses that have closed down. Where'd you get the 583?
It's
So-
this
so it's-
536. Yeah, go ahead. Ren.
Yeah, so it's 536 is Strip Retail Plaza, which is what was there before. It was retail and office mixed, under 40,000 square feet. It was about 7,250 square feet. And based on the trip rates for that use, we estimated that it would generate about 536 trips.
So I'm sorry,
For
it wasn't based on a site-specific study. Is that correct?
Correct.
You really
For
have
the
no idea. You really have no idea how many trips were generated per day for that building. Isn't that right?
Well, but this is standard practice for traffic studies.
I understand
I
the
mean,
standard practice, but
and-
I'd like an answer to the question. You really
Well,
don't.
no, the answer to the question is.
Frank,
this
if I
is-
may,
Go ahead.
it's not that we have no idea. It's that it's based on statistical averages of similar uses.
Well,
So
let me tell you
it's
something. If there were 583 trips out of that existing place, it wouldn't have closed down.
Also-
That place had no traffic. That place had the businesses were dying. Nobody went
Okay,
in.
so
So
I'm
what
sorry.
and my point is that with the way you've worked the numbers, using your statistics, you know, you've allowed yourself, or you've been able to claim that you don't have to do an extensive traffic study, and I just think that's wrong.
Well, we just did the extensive traffic study. That's what this showed.
Well, but I
We
forget
didn't
that.
cook the-
It
no,
was
we did
if it
not.
was over 100 trips, then you didn't have to do something. I forget the name of it.
Yeah.
so initially when we were determining the scope of the study to do, we looked at the proposed use minus the use that was there before. However, after the November meeting, which I attended, we decided to go back and do a full traffic study, and that's what we're presenting. When we estimated the amount of traffic that was added to the road, we didn't take any deductions for what was there before. We used just the trips generated by the proposed Starbucks and went from there. We didn't, when we added trips to the network, we didn't take any deductions for what we thought was there before.
What communications have you had, you or any of your agents or employees or representatives with the various different council members with regard to this project?
We have had none.
So are you telling me that nobody from your organization has contacted any of the council members or the mayor to determine how it is that they might receive this proposal? Is that what you're telling me?
Not from the Starbucks organization. That is correct.
Well, how about from some marketing company or some other representative?
Again, I'm not, all I can tell you is we haven't reached out and done anything with the council or the mayor.
And what about a lobbyist on your behalf? Has anybody reached out to any of the council members?
No.
Or the
We don't employ lobbyists.
Okay, that's all I have for right now. Thank you.
Surely. Okay. Next up is Keith Parks. Keith, if you could unmute yourself.
All right, I'm unmuted. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, so kind of along the lines of what Rob was saying, you know, when I get your statistical analysis based on assumptions, but on one hand, you're using your assumptions to say that there's going to be minimal traffic. And yet, on the other hand, your study just showed that there'd be 557 trips. And if there isn't that many today, that means that's an absolute increase. So with your numbers, you're trying to undersell, quote, the traffic impact. And if this was the Shark Tank, I don't think you'd get any of the sharks to back up your project because there's no money to be made with the amount of traffic increase you're saying that would be supporting this drive-through. So I think I know how to cook numbers. You guys do a great job of cooking numbers. I would think that the city, Steve, doesn't the city have any kind of tracking on accidents at intersections, whether they're just damage versus personal injury that could be provided to these people so they have a better understanding of what takes place on Prune Ridge, at Harold, and up at Stevens Creek? Again, I think there's a huge understatement there in regards to that.
Yeah, this is Steve. That is not my expertise.
No, I know it's probably not yours, but there's got to be someone in the traffic division over there that tracks this stuff for the city so they know when to put in a light or a roundabout or speed bumps. Those
Right.
people got to know how many accidents are happening on a particular intersection, I would think. I would hope they're tracking that.
And Renee, you have some data of the
Yeah.
accidents, right? That's what they were sharing earlier.
Right.
Yes,
And
that's correct. The
Right.
collision data is all injury and fatal accidents.
But no, just damage.
The
Two cars
TIMS
hit each
data,
other and we
the
exchange information.
TIMS database does not include that data.
Right. So you have incomplete data on the impact from a accident perspective. The other thing that Frank, you mentioned is that there would be a manual process that if traffic was backing up into the drive-through, that someone would run out and place cones to block the street. But what does that do for customers that are coming in there to expecting that to be open? Where are they supposed to go?
Well, again, either they'll be directed to the parking lot or they'll be directed to the drive-through.
Okay, so if I'm on Stevens Creek and I turn on the Harold thinking I'm going to get through your drive-through, I'm already past the first driveway to enter coming off Stevens Creek. And then when I turn on Harold, I'm already past the next driveway that I could probably turn right on.
Well, we would have a more robust program so that you don't have that happen again.
Okay, well,
that's
then with all these cars waiting in line, what's your carbon footprint? How are you mitigating the carbon footprint of idling cars?
We don't have an issue with that, but
you don't. It's my neighborhood.
Well, so again, what are you getting at? You just don't want the Starbucks?
What am I getting at? Okay, you're creating an issue where we didn't have one before with extra cars sitting there idling and creating pollution in the local atmosphere.
we haven't had any issues with air quality on any of our Starbucks.
Well, you know, it's got to start somewhere,
Okay,
you know. And again, Steve, I don't know if the city has any view on that as far as the impact on the community.
Yes, this project is exempt per SEQA as a new structure. So no analysis on air quality has been conducted.
So okay, so their carbon footprint is exempt, but if it has an adverse effect on the community eventually, they're still exempt.
I would
And then
prefer
one,
this
what,
to
and
the
okay,
applicant.
I'm just
Yeah,
making that as a statement. Doesn't it, you know, it really doesn't make sense. You know, if you think about it, it's like, okay, I'm going to take away your home insurance because there's too many fires out in the outlands. And then if you can bring up your overview map, please, if you wouldn't mind. Okay. And I know this was on our last call. So right adjacent to 3575 across the street, there is a Starbucks inside the bookstore. Right at the corner of San Tomas and Stevens Creek. And then if you go up San Tomas, up towards Saratoga, there's another Starbucks right there.
yep,
Now, right now, the through traffic coming down Prune Ridge, for the most part right now, is going to that location to get their coffee in the morning. So again, I'm really trying to figure out where is the business incentive to put a Starbucks on that corner, and yet at the same time balance that again with your traffic studies to say there's minimal increase in traffic, to say that this is a profitable operation that's going to be installed there. So I don't know. So far in my mind, you haven't addressed the issue of the school, idling cars, traffic management per se, as far as now cutting it down to one line versus two lines. Again, I think the resolution there is no lines for drive-through, and let them manage it parking on the street if they want to go there. But I don't know. I guess, Frank, you need to get in your car and go sit there for an extra 70 minutes at that intersection trying to get to work and see how you feel about the traffic delays. That's all.
okay. Thank you. There's a Fabian and Liana. Did I say that right? And if you could unmute, that would be great.
Yeah.
There we go.
Hi. Hey, Frank. It's Fabian and Leanna, actually.
Thank you.
Hey, so I got one couple of questions, and I got a couple of points to go through here.
Sure.
I guess my first question is, what's the point of this outreach meeting? Are you going to build it regardless of you saying whatever you're presenting is today, or just?
Well, no, we're doing this outreach, and then from here, we would go on to planning commission, and that's where, you know, everyone that's on this call can come and speak their point of view. City will be there. That's how it goes. I mean, we made an application, and that's where we're headed, is towards the planning commission for a decision.
Okay, cool. We'll be sure to be in that meeting then. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on in that location.
And the business nearby.
And the businesses nearby. Yeah, there's been in the past 6 months, I would say maybe there's been like my concern is traffic, but apart from the traffic, the crime that it's going to attract. There's been like 3 break-ins across the street, and there's been like 2 break-ins in the eyebrow place across the street, or down in the corner.
And not to mention, our truck was stolen
Yeah.
from our driveway.
Yeah, literally stolen from our driveway at 4 in the morning. that's just one aspect of it. I know Starbucks is not at fault at the customers or whoever they may attract, but I know that it's sometimes not the best. Apart from that, yeah. Apart from that, the traffic, that's a pretty cute study you guys did. The messing with the stats, that's, I mean, I'm not sure you're not messing with it, but like that's not one day
out of the year does not reflect how
Yeah.
crazy it is on this street. We're the last house on the end of this street. We see the most. I mean, I know there's a lot of traffic throughout the whole entire street, but we see so many cars just from the businesses in front of us alone.
And a lot of the times they come into from Stevens Creek and U-turn on our driveway. I've had to put cones up on our driveway because of how many people just come in and U-turn. That's
our driveway.
On our driveway.
And that's without the Starbucks traffic alone.
Yeah. This thing is one of the reasons why I moved to this neighborhood was because we didn't have a Starbucks across the street. This makes us reconsider that a lot. We pay a lot in rent to live here, and I'm sure my neighbors pay pretty high mortgages to live here. They didn't move in here to have a Starbucks in their neighborhood, I'm sure.
So it's not really for the people of the neighborhood who wouldn't drive to the Starbucks anyways. They would walk there if it was for the people in this neighborhood.
If you take a look at the Google map, you can type in Starbucks. There's like 10, 13 within like 3-mile radius. So that's all really we have to say.
We just don't think it's accurate in saying that it's for the people here. We didn't request this. I'm sure a lot of people on this call and a lot of people in our neighborhood did not request the Starbucks here. So really, you putting in a drive-through Starbucks is to garner a different set of people. So
yeah, you're bringing people from not from the neighborhood. You're bringing people in that are driving through the neighborhood.
People on their way to work in a rush.
That's not what we want. I mean, I don't know where you're from, Frank, and the other person. We missed the beginning of the meeting. The person saying the traffic stat.
Renee is her name. Yeah.
Hi, Renee. Yeah, I don't know where you guys are from. I don't know if you guys have any children.
I went to De Anza College, and I have a lot of friends in your neighborhood, actually.
Okay.
That's cute. But
you don't live here.
You don't live here, dude. Like
I don't live on your street, but I am more familiar with the area than my colleagues who might have attended, and that's why I'm here.
Okay, sure. That's all we have
You
to
asked.
say. We'll be at the meeting. But if you're gonna build it, like why even bother making these? Like it makes absolutely no sense. This is just like for you to like show your boss to be like, oh yeah, we talked to the people in the neighborhood. This isn't
really getting the opinion and listening to what we have to say, because all of what we've said so far has been in the last meeting. So we're just repeating ourselves to be ignored.
Well, I don't see it that way. I think we gained some insight from our last meeting. We did a big old traffic study and we found some issues.
The traffic study that was there for like a 1 day on a Tuesday.
Well, I understand this is the way the industry works. Even if the city did the traffic study without us, it would yield the same results. So
I'm glad you think.
I'm
glad you think of our lives and my children as the industry. That shows a lot of what you guys have in mind. I hope my neighbors are listening. We're just the industry to them. Thank you. That's our time.
Okay, just to be clear, I was speaking about the traffic study industry and not your industry. So I didn't mean it to be anything that way. Let's see, I have a Cindy Baldassani. Did I say that right? Baldassani?
Hi, Frank.
Hello.
I was on the meeting in November with Tracy Johnson, and I were actually kind of a lot of the voices for the SOFNA area around here, and a lot of the neighbors that are on this call tonight. and also the ones that have been getting the neighbors to rally around this really amazing opportunity to voice their opinion. One of the things I've been here 40 some odd years, not as long as some of the residents here, is the community. And I think what is the most discouraging for me tonight is, number one, the traffic study. I live right here in the middle of Harold Avenue, very close to the Friends of the preschool, and know most of my neighbors on the block. And the traffic study is just beyond discouraging. This one day thing on a Tuesday after a holiday of Thanksgiving, where a lot of people aren't even going back to work because they're taking an extended holiday, I have to tell you, was a sheer joke. I also am midway down on Harold Avenue. And with all the backup in the morning and the cut throughs that do happen, there is no warrant to these daily trips and the amount. First off, the speed. I'm here every single day of my life, and there is no way that these cars aren't traveling any less than an average of 35 to 40, some words upwards of 50 miles an hour. And they start now in the last 6 months to a year, starting at 5:30 in the morning, because they're cutting through as people are going back to the Apple campus and various other high techs because they don't want to back up on San Tomas. We've never addressed anything with the traffic on San Tomas. Now we're going to add the impact to Harold Avenue. Number one, you're forcing the people back onto Harold Avenue. When they come out of Starbucks, you're making them be able to, by turning in and out onto Harold Avenue. We're not taking into consideration the preschool. So the parents pull up here every morning. I watch them. Some of them pull up in front of my house. And by the way, there is not overall 2-hour parking on this street. It is only in front of 3 homes, which is mine, one in the middle, 109, 133, the one I own on the left, and my neighbors on the right. I'm the one who put those 2-hour signs in when I first moved in 1997. The parents, we worked with the preschool. I'm very concerned about the backup of the traffic. When you put this 1-lane entrance in, you're going to get people coming around down Cypress, and you're going to get them coming up Harold because they are going to want to get in line. There's no way they're going to get off of Stevens Creek. They're not going to wait. They're going to make a turn. They're going to realize after a couple times of trying that's not going to work. So I'm going to go Cypress. I'm going to cut around, and I'm going to come to Forest and cut up Harold Avenue to get in line. Now we're going to have that traffic once again, from the preschool parents trying to drop their kids off in the morning to people getting frustrated, coming down midway, trying to make U-turns to get back to the Starbucks to get in the queue line. Even if they can make it off of Stevens Creek, they're going to turn right on Harold in front of all the houses, such as the people that just spoke ahead of me. And they're going to make a U-turn in front of the houses midway down, right? Only 2 buildings from where the preschool is, as well as a very nice cleaning company that's across the street. And they're going to try to get back into the Starbucks queue line and then come back. This 583 daily trips is going to be a reality, even though it is not a reality with the businesses we had. The businesses that were in there were a hair salon, a single owner, a construction company that was in that building, which for the most part, their crew came in the morning, Paris Construction, and then they left, and a surf shop and a little iMac repair shop that was there that belonged to a friend of mine. There was very low traffic because they were service organizations. They weren't really consumer walk-in type business to business. I think I could talk for a long, long time, Frank, on this, but nothing was listened to in what we did in November. It's like we had this great community outreach. We worked with you. We tried to get you guys to understand really what the impact would be. It is going to simply ruin the life of not only the Harold Avenue residents. It's very discouraging, very heartbreaking. And I know it's business and I know it's money, but this location is just not conducive to a drive-through. We asked in November if there was potential that this could be turned into a walk-through or walk-in. And we know that that limits it, and you're probably not going to get the volume of people, which then puts the plan into a non-money maker, which makes you look at a different location potentially, because this is not the location either way. People are going to be frustrated. I really invite you to come spend 2 days here on Harold Avenue in the morning. Just come here in the middle of a normal work week and sit right out in front of my house. I'll buy you a cup of coffee and you witness what happens here on Harold Avenue in the morning. And I guarantee you would rethink your plan, Frank. I mean, it's just, you would not live here. I know you live in beautiful Southern California. And I know, Renee, you have friends around here, but you don't live on this street. And it's heartbreaking to see what's going to happen. It's heartbreaking for me as a resident, as well as every resident that I care so much about in my entire community here. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. I've got Anthony Becker, if you would unmute.
Thank you. And thank you to all of the residents who are making comments before me. I wholeheartedly agree with a lot of your concerns and comments, especially the first issue is I was never reached out to by any of the individuals from Starbucks. I'm not going to give them any flack on that because I think that, you know, if it's going to planning commission, it might be coming to city council. So I don't think they've reached out yet, but I would have appreciated maybe somebody having reached out to me. I know I brought this up as a major concern in the past. My second issue is, well, the first issue is in San Jose, there's a drive-through ordinance. It means that there is no drive-throughs that are allowed. I know that the In-N-Out Burger was basically, you know, that plan was destroyed because they are not allowing drive-throughs on the San Jose side. Makes me question that if this project was done in San Jose, would it be approved? It's basically on the San Jose side, which is across the street. And it's, in a way, it's kind of feel like we're contradicting though a lot of the climate goals of what San Jose has because of the no drive-throughs. That was the reason why they have no drive-throughs, is because of climate change and the climate goals, as well as carbon footprint. So there's some concerns there. And it also ties to where I'm pushing forward tomorrow during our city council priority setting session, which I hope everybody does attend, where I'm pushing about, you know, basically getting an audit done for all of our city ordinances and policies to kind of align with our neighboring cities so we don't contradict each other's plans. So like, for example, as I just said, San Jose has that no drive-through policy. So why is Santa Clara trying to contradict what San Jose does and vice versa? I know down the street, Santa Clara does have a drive-through at the Jack in the Box that's been there for decades. I remember that all my life. And I know that residents have had many concerns about late night noise at that drive-through at that location. You know, I appreciate what Mr. Mazzetti was saying at the very beginning about, you know, the traffic going down Herald. I mean, you got the other Starbucks over there. I know people like to use apps to go make their orders. They're going to be being as mobile as they can and going up and down this corridor. A lot of kids in this neighborhood, I've spoke to a lot of neighbors and residents, they have those major concerns. And when they have concerns, it makes me have concerns. On top of that, I know that there is a significant traffic issue. I know in the very morning, the traffic on Stevens Creek backs up to about that Herald area. If you add a Starbucks there with a drive-through, it's going to be where, let alone a Starbucks, it's going to create a traffic issue. But if you have a drive-through one there, everyone's going to go to be that location. I have seen it at the location at the Starbucks on Lawrence and El Camino. It gets pretty backed up. So I have very, very heavy concerns. Hearing about what our residents are concerned about is my top priority, especially if their quality of life in this neighborhood. But it comes down to what remedies. I know you said that there is no plan, that the plan is drive-through only. You know, I don't know how far this goes to, if it goes to city council. I know planning commission you mentioned, but it's, what's a remedy? If the residents don't want something like this in their neighborhood, what is a remedy and what's a way around this? I know you said that the drive-through was a goal, but again, that, you know, I'm responsible for my community and my resident. I represent District 6 here, and it's very hard to tell my neighborhood when they don't like something that's being put into their neighborhood that may affect their quality of life. So those are just a lot of my concerns I wanted to put out there. I appreciate a lot of my residents showing up and voicing their opinions and knowing wanting to know what's going on. I appreciate you guys doing this, putting these meetings together, talking to us, relaying messages. But, you know, from the last meeting to this meeting and moving forward, I'm hoping that nothing's falling on deaf ears. And I'm hoping that my community is being heard loudly. I know they are. And I think that's pretty much it I have on my concerns here on my list. I just want to make sure that our residents are being taken care of and they're being addressed. And this has been on my radar for a while, and I really appreciate Mr. Mazzetti and a lot of the neighbors from the South Forest neighborhood, including Tracy, to let me know about this issue. So again, my door is always open for everybody to reach me at the city, as well as the developer and the project planners for this. I'm always available to speak as well. But hearing my residents' concerns is really getting me really perking my ears right now. So that's pretty much all I have. If you have any other questions, I'd be glad to answer some too. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Becker, just one thing, a couple of things. One, it is not just a drive-through only, it is a full cafe, so there will be an indoor area for people to sit and what have you.
Understood.
And again, I thought we were listening to the neighborhood, and again, we weren't required to do a traffic study. And after hearing them last time, I thought that was the right approach. I mean, I'm not trying to, blow smoke up anyone, but, and it did come out. I mean, whether you believe the study or not is a different story. I mean, I have your traffic, manager, Steve Chan, can look at the study and critique it. I mean, we're not trying to pull the wool over anyone's eyes. That's not clearly the case. So
understand that, Frank. But what I'm just trying to get at is that, we have climate goals, and I'm on a board with the Stevens Creek steering committee, and we're all trying to find a way how to, one, fight climate change, two, provide better transportation for communities, and three, trying to enhance and improve the quality of life of everybody along the Stevens Creek corridor, including the neighborhoods that are against it. So, I know there's a traffic study. I understand it. But at the same time, I just sometimes see contradicting goals that we have, and kind of also contradicting what the Stevens Creek Steering Committee is trying to do. So I just hope that we're all on the same page and that we're all reaching out to everybody, including that steering committee, because it is going against a lot of what we are trying to accomplish on that committee, and not, like I said, climate goals and also sustainability and transportation. So it comes down to, I think somebody said it a moment ago, we want people to get out of our cars. We want people, there's a carbon footprint issue, yet here we are pushing for a drive-through when the city of San Jose across the street is kind of against that. So that's kind of also my last question, which I'll leave you, which is, if this was being planned in San Jose, would it be rejected?
I would just say this: I have permitted and approved Starbucks in the city of San Jose. As you may be aware, the city council has their policy there on drive-through. It's quite extensive. So no, to your point, you can't put them anywhere you want. You're exactly right. But you can
specifically on the Stevens Creek.
Well, no, I was just talking about Stevens. I was talking about San Jose as a whole. I'm sorry, but yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Thank you. I just want to make sure. That's also why the In-N-Out burger was killed, which I'm very glad they did. It would have been a mess over there, but I'm very glad they did that. So thank you anyways. But if you have any other questions or concerns, let me know.
Thank you. I have a Sandra McGilgory. Hope I said that right.
Hello?
Hello.
Hi. First of all, I'm very impressed with my neighbors. They're saying exactly what I wanted to say. 583 trips. You said, Cindy was right when she said that those businesses on Stevens Creek, it was negligible. There was a beauty salon, like she said, and there wasn't any 583 trips taken. It's ridiculous. I don't know where they came up with that number. I've been a resident since 1964, and this is really bothering me. We don't mind Starbucks, but we are against a drive-through for many reasons. And they've all been spoken about very well with Rob and Keith and Cindy, and now even Anthony Becker. So I really have nothing more to add, except that I am one of many residents that are against the drive-through. But we're talking about Starbucks now. What about the one on Saratoga and Prune Ridge? are they going, or Stevens, yeah, Saratoga and Prune Ridge, is that going to be dismantled? Do you know anything about that?
No, that would remain the one that's right here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
on Moss there, yeah.
yeah, that would remain.
So we really need another one, huh? Okay. Well, thank you for hearing me out. But we are very serious about this. And I really hope that you rethink this because we do not want a drive-through. And I think the points that they've made are excellent and should be listened to. Thank you.
Thank you. Next I have a Charlene Kaufman. Did I get that right?
Yes. Can you
Thank you. Yes, we can hear you.
So along with Sandra Michael Glory, I've lived on Harold for 58 years. Your study for the traffic is, you need to come not in the middle of November. You need to come on a regular day. You need to be there between 6:30 and 8 o'clock in the morning when the cars are so loud, even with your windows shut, you hear the traffic come down the street. I have documented in my phone as of right now 4 major accidents at the corner of Forest and Harold because the cars going down that street, there is no way they are doing 32 miles an hour. They're doing more like 60. We have some residents that live in the apartments at closer to Prinridge and Harold that love to do 90 down the street. There has been numerous accidents. Like I said, I have documented June 4th, November 8th. These accidents, the cars are ending up in the people's front yards. They're taking out bushes. They're taking out Rex and Catherine's.
Tearing doors off of cars.
Yeah,
People
tearing doors
stuck
off
open.
of doors. How are you going to handle? You say, oh, well, the cars are going to enter and exit on Harold. So how are you going to handle the line of 25 cars when they start going down the street and these people can't get in and out of their driveways?
Well, we won't have 25 cars. Again, every study we've done on the Starbucks in the area puts it at around 12 to 14. We haven't seen anything over that threshold.
So I think that you might be underestimating, since it is a major thoroughfare and you are one street off of Santa Moss and Stevens Creek. If somebody has the option to go hit a drive-through, they're gonna do it. Yes, I see where you want the drive-through, but I think it's totally I want to be politically correct here, and I'm trying to keep my calm because my level is off the roof at the moment. Okay, so you say only 10 or 12 cars. So what is that? That puts it 100 yards down the street?
No, no. We have a room for 15 on our site in the
And then they're gonna come right back down Harold. So no matter what, you are causing double the traffic on Harold. Wait, my husband has something to say.
So my name is David. I'm Charlene's husband. And in your design there, you're saying the cars come in and out of Harold. And to me, it does it not, if you come in off of Stevens Creek and you turn right down to Harold and you go past the Starbucks building to turn into the lot, and then the cars come through the drive-through, as those cars coming out of the drive-through try to exit back onto Harold, are they not going to be blocked by the cars trying to get into the drive-through, which is now going to back traffic up onto Stevens Creek? You know, that's one thing I see. The other thing I see is, like, if you get people who see that Starbucks there and you're coming eastbound on Stevens Creek and you cross over San Tomas, that left-hand turn lane there is only good for 2 cars. And then what's going to happen is people are going to get rear-ended because they're going to be sticking out of that left-hand turn lane, trying to make a left on the Herald, heading north on the Herald. And it's going to be backing up Stevens Creek into the intersection. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense, if anything, I would think that you would want the entrance into the Starbucks right at the beginning of Herald, put the building where your 2 lanes are, and then have the cars exit out there. At least that way they're not blocking the exit out of Starbucks. But I understand why you're doing that, because you're trying to keep the cars off of Stevens Creek. But when you're blocking your exit with your entrance, I worked for the school district for years, and that doesn't work. You're going to get up so bad that it's not going to be functional.
So that's actually why the drive-through entry is separate from the entry and exit of the store.
I understand that, but
Yeah.
the cars heading north onto Herald to get into that entrance to Starbucks are going to be blocking your exit. You don't think you'll have more than 14 cars there or 15 cars there? I disagree. At peak times, especially in the morning coffee or whatever, the traffic coming off of Stevens Creek and San Tomas are going to be blocking that exit and exacerbating the problem. That's what I see.
So what's gonna happen when these cars, you say 15 cars in your queue?
Yep.
What happens when you get more than 15? What happens if you go 25 or 30 cars and they start backing up down Herald? How is that going to be happening? How is Starbucks going to handle that? Or are you guys just going to say, sorry, that's just the way it is?
No, I mentioned earlier, we are going to have a transportation management plan that would not let that happen. So whether that's closing, the other thing to note is this has a double order point design. Again, we're going to be able to move more cars than normal, but even if that's the case, we will have some partners out here. We'll have some signage. Well, part of our condition of approval is to come up with that transportation management plan, which we could probably do also, so we could present it at the planning commission. I don't have a problem doing that in advance, so it's not a surprise. It's not some smoke and mirror stuff. That's not what we're about. So,
but you have a double line, but you have one order station.
No, we have two
one window.
We have one window, yeah, but the key, what we found is the delay, the backing up is in the ordering, not in the preparing, and actually it's specific at this location. There's as you can imagine, that Starbucks has studied this fairly well in depth, that this location of the order points gets the product coming out the window. That's why the 2 order points definitely improves the number of cars that this can handle, if that makes sense.
It does make sense, and I understand how your timing is, that you timed it from by the time that you order to the time you get the window, your order is going to be there. So it's just going to be a blow and go.
Correct.
But I think just from living in the neighborhood and doing anything there, like I said, I was born and raised there in 1964, 150 Herald. My last name is Corfman, but I'm also a Lopes, an Lopes. And anybody on this car who knows our family knows that we're big in the neighborhood, just along with Cindy and Mrs. Michael Glory and Rex and Catherine and everybody else that's listening. I think you are truly underestimating the Starbucks. And I truly believe that you're going to have cars lining up down Herald Avenue. And when that happens, how do we handle this? And I know you say, oh, we're going to have partners out there. We're going to have this.
Well,
but what do we do? How do we just start calling the cops and the city and trying to shut it down? And then that's a waste. Let's try to get this settled ahead of time, which is what you're doing now. To have it being a drive-through, I believe, is just unmanageable in my view. which that's me, myself, and I. And it's gonna be worse in the end.
Well,
So
I think you do have a valid point, and regarding, you know, we'll have a traffic management plan, and what does that mean? So I think, to your point, we should prepare that so we can present that at the planning commission level, so that everyone can see it and talk about it and know that it can work, right? That's your point, I think. So I would agree with that.
Oh, okay, so my other question to you is that you are talking about 583 trips, which is one car in and out, so it's actually only 290 trips into that Starbucks.
Cars, correct.
Yeah, and that's on a daily?
That's on a peak hour.
Okay, hourly.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, I correct that.
Yeah, the 580 something is the net increase. But this is on a daily basis. And that's the entire 24 hours. So that's, you
Right.
know, partners arriving early in the morning through partners leaving very late at night. It's
Right.
across the entire day.
So I don't know, I guess Starbucks must be you know, are they who is the landowner building the building for Starbucks or what? But like, to make the mortgage on a brand new building with only 583 trips or whatever it is in and out of there, and people are only spending, you know, like $50 at tops, you know, you're only talking like $14,000 a day. And I mean, a mortgage and labor costs and energy costs and all that stuff got to be, you know, that doesn't just sound profitable to me. Like there's enough, like your numbers are way short, and that is not going to be a profitable business unless you better double that or triple that, even if you're going to make rent and taxes and, you know, labor costs and all that stuff. So that's just, you know, me doing a quick crunch of numbers in my head, but you know, well, I guess you guys will do what you're going to do. So anyways, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
You know what, one thing I did want, you guys touched on something, and I thought it'd be worth it to let you know. I do know, regardless of whether Starbucks goes or not, I do know, after talking to the traffic calming folks, again, trying to get a stop sign or something at Harold and Forest. Again, I believe they're going to start their own community outreach, and of course, I will encourage you all to do that as well with them, because
we have tried for the last 35
Yeah.
to 50 years to have a four-way stop.
Yeah.
Every time we just got within the last 8 years, maybe 5 years, a two-way stop. And they still don't stop at that intersection.
The cars.
I drive a very large truck, and I have always driven a very large truck, and I have taught my daughter, who has driven through this neighborhood, when you come up to that street, when you come up to Forest and Harold, you slow down and you look both ways because the cars do not stop. It's a blind turn when you're coming from Prune Ridge, and as you come around and you're coming down the street, it's just
that's why we did it separate from the city, our own deal. And again, to be honest, I was disappointed. I was hopeful we could install a stop sign for you for you guys. So
Well, that and the speed humps, you know, like
well,
they
the speed humps, we can definitely put those in, or that, and we've talked to the city and they've agreed we can do some of that traffic calming on Harold. I think it's mainly kind of in the I'll call it between Forest and Stevens Creek is what we're thinking of for some speed humps to help slow that down.
that would help.
yeah.
Yeah, we have committed to fund that, and of course the city asked that they be in charge of the design and all that kind of good stuff. I said that's fine, but we do want to have that in place so that we can make sure those are part of the project. So
Yeah,
anyway,
because
I digress from the project, but I think that's important to know.
yeah, because my daughter's in the city and we spend a lot of time up there with her. But the San Francisco's gotten really good with the speed humps and the way they build them. And I know there's concerns about like fire truck and school buses, with those in place, but the city is in their more recent speed humps that they've installed, they've actually put like a wide track, so like the big, large vehicles like that can go through without hitting the humps.
Yep.
The typical car, would still hit those bumps.
Well, Los Altos has those going
Yeah.
down
Because I've had-
Miramonte and Springer and Cuesta and
we had a guy there for a while, a few years back, in a blue Mustang that would come down Harold doing 90 miles an hour. And I'd be out there screaming and yelling at the guy and throwing tennis balls at his car as he went flying by
Now.
because he would never slow down. And I don't, we hadn't seen him in the last probably year because I don't know if he moved, if he came out of the apartments, if he was a renter in one of the houses further down on Harold, closer to Prune Ridge. But, I mean, it's been ridiculous down that street. We've had cars destroyed that have been parked on Harold because of people going so fast that they've ran into two of the cars in front of, Charlene's mom's place and the 150 there that, the cars have been totaled, so yeah. I
One
can't
thing I did find out, Harold between Forest and Prune Ridge is designated, where did I see this? It's designated like an emergency response route. So this section is tough to put speed bumps on, but from Forest to Stevens Creek, I think, and talking to, again, the city traffic engineer, we were talking about maybe two humps in here, and maybe even I think there's a speed, one of those speed, you're going this fast. I'm not sure how good.
They
effective-
don't.
Isn't
They
there
don't.
one on Harold coming in off of Stevens Creek
The
already?
South of Forest had it put up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure how well they work. I think we're
They
better
don't.
off with the bumps. I think we need spike strips for the guy going 90.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, man, it was getting to the point where I was going to start throwing a lot harder things at his car.
Now.
But the last time I connected, he finally hit the brakes, and he had such loud pipes. I'd go out front and wait for him. That's how obnoxious people can be down that street. And I've been married into this family for over 35 years, so I've been in and out of that house lots of times. I can't tell you how many times. Just down there at the apartments at what is that, Sutter? That the people don't stop there either, and it's such a blind intersection because everybody parks on those corners because there's not enough parking. And same with Prune Ridge and Harold. People park tight on those corners that you're trying to come through there, and it's so hard to see. If it's clear to go out on the Prune Ridge. In fact, we just had an accident there a couple weeks ago when we were over there. It's so hard to see, and people don't stop. It's like coming through Forest. They're going so fast down Harold that the people on Forest, you think it's clear, and then you step out there and somebody's doing 50 miles an hour and nails you. So, it's not conducive to put more traffic. It's already on that neighborhood. So anyways, okay, I'm done. Sorry.
No, it's fine. Thank you for your comments. Marcella? Marcella? Miranda? Did I get that right?
Yes, that's right.
Thank you.
Can you hear me okay?
We can.
Thank you. First, I just want to thank both of you for being on this call tonight and supporting us with this important issue that's happening in our neighborhood. I just want to say that I understand the concerns that are raised, and I share some of the apprehensions. And, I just want to remind, the community that this is not our first kind of like challenge and fears that we've had. When the Jack in the Box was looking to extend their hours, I remember, people were just like really, really upset, and, they didn't want it to happen. And by working with the city and by working with the owners of the franchise, we were able to find, some comparable solutions. And, that happened like what, 10 years ago. So I guess what I wanted to come on here and say is that, um, you know, that we shift our focus because it looks like this is going to happen. And I propose that we just have, that we work with the city on some constructive actions. Um, and hopefully, there'll be viable solutions for us. I live on a very heavily, I live on Cypress, and so that's heavily trafficked. And I have not had any accidents in front of my house. Everything is fine. And I would attribute that to the fact that we worked very hard with the city to create, calming measures. And so I just would like to propose some, and hopefully, we can continue going back to the drawing board and kind of making adjustments as needed. But if there was any chance that we could perhaps limit the drive-through hours to hours where maybe the area is not very heavily trafficked, that would be something that I would like to propose. In addition to that, maybe even creating like kind of similar to what we have here, like a little roundabout or some kind of like a visual place where people can see, or maybe what's the word I'm looking, like deter them, even though it might be like, oh, you can't make a right-hand turn, but maybe just like deter them from doing that. I like the idea of the speed bumps. And so, yeah, those are just some of the things that I'm thinking about. I'm actually a proponent of having a Starbucks. I think that the community needs more areas to come and meet and gather. I'm not too excited about the drive-through, but if we have no choice, I'd rather have a Starbucks than, a nightclub or a smoke shop, or all of these things that are popping up everywhere, the CBD shops and so forth. So I don't know. I guess I'm just thinking about, it could be worse. And hopefully that it doesn't come to that. But anyway, again, thank you both for being on the call tonight. And we have amazing neighbors, and I know that we will come together and we'll figure this out. Thank you.
Thank you. John, I don't have a last name for you, John.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I guess, well, thank you for listening to all of our questions and concerns, and thanks to all the neighbors for voicing them. I guess two things I wanted to ask. One, maybe this is for the traffic planner. Is it common to have drive-through entrance and exit on a on a residential street versus, I see them in shopping centers, I see them on a major thoroughfare like maybe Stevens Creek, but on a residential street? Is that common in Santa Clara?
Steve, I think that's to you.
Well, I'm not a traffic planner, but we don't have any anything, regulations or standards prohibiting that entrance from a residential street. We have a Starbucks. I'm not a Starbucks, a Jack in the Box drive-through just down the street from here. That also has entrance from the smaller residential street as well.
And thanks for that. And then I guess the other question is, for the traffic study, does that include an estimate of sort of the surges in traffic, the peak hours? I imagine that Starbucks is busier when people are on their way to work or maybe at lunch hours. And so maybe, how does the 500 odd trips get spread over the day? And is it going to be worse in the mornings and lunchtime? Or I was wondering if that was looked at.
It was actually. Frank, could you go to the trip generation table again in the memo?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Trip gen. This
There we
one?
go. Yep. So the Starbucks is expected to generate of the roughly 1,200, 500 something cars entering and exiting the site every day. About 50 of those would be in the AM peak hour and about 20 of them would be in the PM peak hour. And those are in the morning, that's the highest hour of adjacent street traffic between 7 and 9 a.m. So I think on Herald, it might have been like 7:30 to 8:30 or something like that. And the data accounts for basically taking the worst case of when the Starbucks is busiest, when the street is busiest, and you add those together and you get the worst case scenario volumes. And so, yeah, we looked at the peak hour. That's how we do the analysis. We look at the daily, but then we do the analysis for the peak hour. And within the peak hour, we're looking at the peak 15. So the 15 minutes that is the busiest of the peak hour, which is the busiest hour of the day, is what we look at when we look at traffic impacts.
I'm not sure I understood. But I guess reading the table, it looks like the AM peak, is it 100 more or less in and outs per hour?
Yeah, in the AM, it's about 100 in and out.
Okay, and so that's basically more than one per minute, and you're averaging about, let's see, 500 trips. If that's over, say, a 10-hour day, that's 60 an hour, more or less. So it's going to be a car going in and out of the Starbucks every minute. And is that right?
The morning is busier than the rest of the day. And so like the PM peak hour is you're only looking at 20 trips in and 20 trips out. So about 20 cars in and out. In the morning, it's about 50. So a little less than one a minute. Little less than one a minute in, little less than one a minute out in the AM peak. And the non-peak hours are going to be lower.
Okay, and then during that peak time where it's around 100 going in and going out, I mean, I'm just trying to envision that, just trying to envision those two driveways that close together, a car going in and a car going out about every 40 seconds. That just seems like in crossing, as other people have mentioned, crossing each other's paths. I'm just trying to imagine how that's going to work, and if this, the whole thing wouldn't be much better if the entrance and the exit for the drive-through were on Stevens Creek rather than on Herald. It seems like a lot of traffic.
Well, I think a lot of it is going through the drive-through, right?
Yeah, that's exactly.
Yeah.
But it's going from Herald into the drive-through and then leaving the drive-through back onto Herald. The two paths crossing. A car every 40 seconds or so during peak volume. I mean, it takes me about 30 seconds to exit a parking lot anyway, because I can stop, look both ways and all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, Renee, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that or.
I mean, the drive aisles are all designed to be two-way drive aisles, and so there's enough space for cars to pass each other. I mean, Frank, you're the architect, so
Yeah, I mean, your studies showed all these work, but I
yeah,
mean, John, I understand what your
yeah,
point is how does it really work? So
yeah.
we'll we'll look at how that would work so that we can answer that question.
And I guess one other maybe concern is, people don't always navigate the two, if there's two choices of order lines to go through. I'm thinking of a car wash that I go to. Uh, once you've clogged the driveway, you've blocked access to both the lines. So one of the lines could be empty or not full anyway. And then your 15 car capacity is now down to maybe 12 or 13. So just another
Well, I think
concern.
yeah, I mean, I think that's why originally we had kind of this design, but I
Yeah.
understand this,
Yeah.
the width
Okay.
issue. So,
All right. Thank you for listening.
no, thank you. Um, let's see. Steve, is it Hog or Haig? Or did I totally miss it? And if you could unmute, that would be great.
It's pronounced Haig.
There we go. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah. So I'm here I got here late, 30 minutes ago, but 45 minutes ago actually. Anyway, I'm here to express myself, and I've lived in this area for 30 years as well. And this whole thing with you coming in and setting up a Starbucks here on the corner is, to be honest with you, it's really not going to work. It's just the traffic, like everybody's been saying, I personally, when I leave to go to work, because I'm a general contractor, I literally come out Harold to go to my job sites, most cases. And with you guys being there and all the traffic that's happening at that time of the morning, you got all that traffic on Stevens Creek, and they're all pulling off to the side, left side, and driving down the other side of the street to get in the turn lanes and doing all that bullshit because it backs up. And then you got the school 2 doors down, and they're trying to, the parents are trying to drop their kids off, and you've got a line of cars going down Harold and backing up on Stevens Creek trying to come in to get their hot coffees. It's just not going to work. I mean, you literally have a Starbucks over at Lucky's and over there at Kylie and Saratoga, and the one over at the mall. I just don't understand why putting one here is just going to be beneficial. It just not. It's just going to cause a lot of problems. And putting speed bumps down that, I pull a truck and trailer. I have a F350 and a 20-foot trailer I pull. Going over speed bumps doesn't work with a trailer. And if I have to go over speed bumps in my own neighborhood, it sucks. And I know you guys mean well, but there's this, you guys already have Starbucks close by in the area. I just don't see how this is going to really work. And I'm, unfortunately, to be honest with you, I'm extremely against you guys building and putting a Starbucks there in the corner. Speed bumps, the traffic, just doesn't seem to want to work for the area. And I've been in this area, 35 years, and I've seen a lot of things change. And I like coffee shops, but that's just not really a good place for a coffee shop. I mean, if you're going to put one there, and I don't have a say in that part of it, long and short of it, the drive-through part has to go. It's just not going to work. It's just not going to work. I don't want you to be there at all, but I mean, if I had to settle for a happy medium, it would be without the drive-through. But personally, I really don't want you to be there at all. And I agree with everything that Charlene said, and a lot of some of the other people that were on there, that the traffic is just going to be horrendous. And then as I want to come out and leave to go to my job sites, I'm stuck. I'm going to be literally stuck behind a bunch of cars going in and out of Starbucks, which is going to suck. And then so then I'll personally have to be forced to go out another way and avoid that situation because of your coffee shop being there. And the only reason, in that intersection right there, the only reason that there actually is lines going across the street to actually stop traffic from blocking that intersection so people could go in and out while it's all backed up is because I actually went to the city and said, hey, you have a sign that says don't block intersection, but everybody blocks it. It took 1.5 years for them to finally get to it and go, oh yeah, well, okay, we'll put some lines there, and that helped. Once they put the lines in, people stopped blocking the intersection so people can make left and right hand turns to go in and out, which made it a lot nicer. But if you put your coffee shop there, that corner right there is just going to be a complete mess. It's just going to be a complete mess. On top of all that, you got Santana Row on the other side, and then they're going to be building that huge complex over there on the corner of Saratoga and Stevens Creek, which is just going to add extremely more traffic onto Stevens Creek. So I just don't see how this is even going to work.
Well, I guess that my answer would be that's why we did the whole traffic study, and at least from a study perspective, it would work, but I understand your concern.
Yeah, well, and I live literally down the street and over on the corner of Brookside and Forest, and like I said, I've been, my grandparents owned the house, and now I own the house, and so I've been in the area for a very long time, and I'm not very happy that you guys want to put a Starbucks on that corner. I mean, I'm not opposed to you guys putting in another Starbucks, but on that corner, come on. There's many corners where you could put a Starbucks on that would be more beneficial for you to have a drive-through going in and out. That is not a very good one. And if I was the little daycare down at the school down the 2 doors down, I would not be very happy that I have to deal with all that traffic that people are trying to get their coffee and they're trying to drop their kids off in the morning. I know what that intersection looks like every morning because I drive through it every day, and it's not pretty, and people are idiots and they still block the intersection when they're not supposed to. And of course, which is the reason why we have all these rules, and the reason why we put speed bumps in, the reason why we put stop signs in, and the reason why we do a lot of things is because people break them and people get hurt, and I get that. Anyway, that's my 2 cents worth. I'm expressing that I really would not like to see you there. But if there was a happy medium, no drive-through for sure. So,
Thank you for your comments.
you're welcome, sir.
I have a Emmy Moore minister. Is that?
That's it.
Okay,
Can you hear me?
I can.
Hi, okay. I lived in that area over 60 years. I guess my age is showing. I'm more on Cypress and Prune Ridge, but when I saw the notice, and my apologies for not being at the last meeting. So if I'm repeating something or asking a question, please bear with me. Looking at the plan, it looks to me like he's trying to put a size 12 foot in a size 6 shoe. eh, I don't think it's fair, and that any neighborhood should have to take two ingress and egress off a street like Harold. This is a type of thing that should have some ingress or egress off of Stevens Creek. I didn't see the earlier plan. I would have put the Starbucks on the corner, had one in one way, out the other. I am concerned, not just what's happening in the neighborhood. That's my number one priority. I'm concerned about what's happening even in the parking lot, trying to get over to the restaurant and parking the car, and cars coming out and cars coming in. It just looks a little confusing to me, and that it could have its own problems inside. I do drive that in the morning. I spend half my year in Santa Clara County, half in Yolo. I drive it 4 or 5 times a week in the morning between 6 o'clock and 7:30, 8 o'clock. I know what that street's like at certain times, and it's a problem. There was a reference to the accidents, and there was a reference to a report that came out of the CHP. And I just wanted to confirm that the accidents from the city's jurisdiction, for the city of Santa Clara or the city of San Jose outside of CHP, were those numbers and those accidents included? Was that Renee? I think, is it Renee? Were those accidents included of the city's jurisdiction?
So the CHP compiles data from all jurisdictions.
Oh, great. Okay, thank you. Just wanted to make sure that. I'm sorry, hours of operation, could you reiterate how early it would be open and what time it would be closing?
Right now, we are proposing 4:30 to midnight.
Okay, so my suggestion would be, definitely, given this parcel, it's really a push for the drive-through. And I know how badly I would love to be able to have a drive-through, so it's just not the right place. It really isn't. I spent 8 years on the planning commission for the city many years ago. I don't remember, I don't know about that Jack in the Box, but I don't remember us putting it 2 ingress and egress off a side street that was really a residential neighborhood. And I know there's a little bit of mixed use in there a little bit, but with the daycare. But I also don't think it's right that a neighborhood should have to take speed bumps. I can't believe that it's taken this neighborhood that much time to try to get a stop sign, and then there was discussions about no stop sign. It just doesn't make sense for so many more reasons, and I'm hoping that you will listen closely to who live around the site. So thank you for allowing me to share.
Sure, I would say I on the speed bumps again. My thought was, how can we help the neighborhood? I know no one's going to say, well, don't be here. I get it.
Yeah, no, I absolutely, and I appreciate what you do. I know how difficult it is. I've been on both sides. I've chaired a homeowners association. I've been on both sides. I've also worked in real estate, so I understand it. This is just a little cozy. Did you bear with me? Did you say that the city was going to allow you to have an ingress off of Stevens Creek?
Yes, just not an egress.
So how are you trying to? So you're going to have two. You're going to have an ingress there, an ingress and an egress and an ingress coming off of Harold. Who's going to be the stop? Who's going to have the stop sign right there in that parking lot to be able to prevent that crowd? And how are people walking safely up to the store to go inside? It just, yeah. Not much talk about the inside. I think one gentleman brought that up, but I'm kind of concerned what's happening inside as well as what's happening outside.
Understood.
Yeah, and I drive that. I drive it, and thank you to the gentleman who got the white lines. They do kind of follow that, but you know what? We're sure it happens when you put a Starbucks someplace, right? People start doing different stuff to get to their Starbucks. So, it does happen. And to think that I appreciate the projections. I was married to a transportation planner. I totally get it, but there's no question, because I already know that I'd be trying to go down. Honest, I'd be going down Harold to get in there. It's so obvious. So I don't know how in an analysis that we can talk about the what ifs, but listen to those neighbors. They know their neighborhood. Okay. So thank you guys for all you're doing. And I'll be at the planning commission meeting if I can get in town. Thanks.
Thank you. Keith Parks?
Yeah, thank you for letting me come back on.
Yeah, that's fine.
I just want to do a little follow-up from what John was asking about earlier about the amount of cars, traffic based on the study. And thank you for telling me what the proposed hours of operation. So that's gonna be about a 20-hour window of operation.
I didn't do the math, but I'll believe you.
Well, if you open to midnight and then, or you close at midnight and you open up at
4:30, yeah.
That's basically 20 hours of operation.
Yep.
So then I got to thinking, listening to Renee when she was sharing, call it peak load hours of traffic. But, I guess what would help, and I don't know if Renee's study can break it down, is the directionality of this traffic by hour.
1 second.
I've come up with if it's basically
the
averaged across 20 hours, it's like 29 vehicles.
Are you wondering what the number of vehicles is per hour, or what the difference is between ins versus outs?
Well, again, it's like, how do you want to parse the number? If one car equals 2 trips, that means that car has an exposure on one of these streets twice, right? So I guess that would be the legitimate count. You'd want to go by how many times is that car exposing itself to the street. So if it's 583 equates to the double trip thing, which would make it like 200 and some odd cars in actuality, right? Am I saying that wrong? 583 was the number,
is the new cars on the road.
and that's 2 trips per each of those cars, or is that 1 trip?
That's the total number of trips. So have that to get the number of cars.
Okay. And then you were saying that in the peak hours, it was like 100 vehicles? Or
In the
100
morning.
cars?
Yeah, in the morning it's about 100 new cars on the road. In the afternoon peak, it's about 40 new about 40 new trips. So
okay.
Yeah.
So I think the quick math I did, I think it came out, if you just averaged all the trips throughout the 20 hours, it was 29 car trips per hour. So it'd be 1 every 2 minutes if everyone was like spacing themselves out and not doing peak load areas. But again, I think based on your study where you showed that there was an additional 70 some seconds trying to get off of Harold onto Stevens Creek to make a left turn.
And that
again, well, I think if you're running that many cars through, that's really going to back traffic up onto Stevens Creek, whether they want to go left or right, which is then going to force the cars to go right to get away from that congestion point, because obviously they're going to be, have their coffee and be late to where they're going. So they're going to try to go what would be the least resistive way, which would be back up Harold to the north. But when you guys get ready for your planning thing, if you could possibly just break down what you think the traffic is going to be per hour. And then, Frank, maybe on the hours that are open, maybe the drive-through doesn't stay open till midnight. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that's not out of the realm of discussion. Yeah.
Again, I just don't see how anyone's going to survive that intersection there at Stevens Creek and Harold. It's just going to be, in the mornings, it's going to be mayhem. Anyway, thank you.
You're welcome. I don't have any more hands up, so Steve, did you want to do any parting comments or public service announcements or what have you?
No. That actually Okay, just maybe on the next steps, I guess,
Yeah.
wrap things up here for the overall planning process. So this is the second community meeting, and you will consider these comments and perhaps finalize your design. You still go through the project clearance committee, which is the internal review. Once that's clear, we'll prepare you for the planning commission. That's usually takes about a month, but we won't know until you're clear from the internal review first. Uh, you're not going to make it into any May meeting, so it'll be either June. We don't have a July planning commission, so June 12 or August. I don't know the date on it in August, but it's 1 second, August 21st.
Okay, well, we're gonna be shooting for the June 12th then, obviously.
That's all I have. So again, this is a recording meeting. The recording of this will be available on the website. The PowerPoint presentation will be on the website as well, for folks to review. So
Okay, well, thank you all for attending. I really appreciate it, and we look forward to continuing moving forward on the project, helping the neighborhood out as best we can outside of no project. And everyone have a good night. Thank you.